Hey guys, it is September 21st, 2018. This is Vulcan Wolverine or Kyle. I have a pretty important video that I wanted to show today, and I'm gonna kind of start doing one thing at a time because my energy level is really hurting right now, and I'm getting targeted, very very badly. But more important information to go through. So I'm going to push on here so we can get some more good documentation out and hopefully, get these people to stop murdering us. So that's the main goal. Um, this is an article I want to go over today. An article by Dr. Beatrice Alexandra Ghulam, MD. She was, I think, a professor at UC San Diego School of Medicine. And I want to thank Patrick or Inca Rhodes for this article. He's a great researcher, and he found this, I think, on the UC San Diego site in her department site. Um, I'm not sure when she wrote this, but it has to do with the Cuban embassy attacks and her theory that it was, microwave microwave radiation and pulsed radio frequency. So the scientific article is called "Diplomats, Mystery Illness, and Pulsed Radio Frequency slash Microwave Radiation." Beatrice Alexandra Ghulam, MD, corresponding author Beatrice Alexander Ghulam, professor of medicine, UC San Diego School of Medicine. It has some of her information out at the bottom. I don't think she has the same number. Some people, some targeted individuals are getting in touch with her, and I have her information too. So I'm going to try and call her and see, just talk to her about this. I think she already knows that targeted individuals are out there. She knows that citizens are getting hit with this stuff. But kind of just to see what she thinks about all this and see maybe if she has some better ideas for us getting the word out. I think it's really good news that a lot of scientific articles are being written, um, about microwave radiation because of the Cuban embassy attack and the China consulate attack and the Uzbekistan incident, because this is going to start spreading around in scientific circles that this is very true, and we're going to maybe get some more scientific articles, or at least anybody with a brain will know that this is happening. So I'm going to get started, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a smoke break. I'm feeling just, I guess in layman's terms, I'm feeling like shit. I've been putting off making this video. It's really important information, but like right now, my head, like I have this horrible headache, and it just, my neck and everything is real stiff because when you're hit with microwaves all the time, your body gets real stiff. And you feel like you're being cooked alive, and you have a hard time thinking, and a lot of other things that really suck. So I know that other target individuals know that, but I'm going to do my best to. I'm going to do my best to, you know, to uh, to give this information justice. Uh, but give me 1 second. I hope you guys out there are doing okay. I hope you're surviving. I'm talking to a lot of people going through this non-consensual human experimentation, slow kill, targeting, gang stalking on the conference calls, and they're in distress and they need this to stop. I mean, because they feel like they can't make it much longer. Their bodies and their minds are being hurt so badly, the torture so bad, and it really gets to me. It just stabs me in the heart. To know that like I can give advice to people, I can make these videos, I can do as much as I can, just like a lot of other target individuals that are trying to just get the information out and do as much as we can. But I can't take it away from them. I can't stop it, and that's what I really want to do. I think that's what we all really want to do. If you know, I don't know who watches my videos, guys, but I do want to say, like, if anybody is watching this video who has any kind of leverage, with politics, local government, or local media, or mainstream media, or anything like that, please help us. This is really happening. I'm probably going to go through. There was an article written in Canada recently, and it wasn't. It kind of talked about the theory of target individuals, and it was saying how, Ella and Freedom from Targeted Individuals, Dr. Matt, they're doing this. They're doing a billboard campaign, and there were a lot of posters put up in the train station, and a Canadian reporter wrote about it because citizens were, I guess, it was concerning people, and it really was a propaganda piece, and kind of saying like, oh, well, these things, they got some psychiatrists, I think one or two psychiatrists, to say, when people have delusions, it feels just as real as rain to them. And my heart almost just stopped in my chest, because this is really happening. People are being attacked by directed energy weapon systems. It's experimentation, slow kill. A lot of us don't know everything that they're why the whys of the why of why they're doing this. With gang stalking and surveillance, and then murdering us and experimenting on us, directed energy weapons, microwaves, neuro weapons. But it was like a secondary torture to see an article, and to see an article where they're like, well, people can't let go of their delusions. So in this society, the society is very, very scary now, and I think we all know. I think that's just common sense, because if you're experiencing something, somebody's murdering you with technology that not everybody is really aware of, because it's being hidden by the military industrial complex, you can just be called crazy, and, oh, well, your brain is just so delusional that these things seem real. Even if you, like, as targeted individuals, we didn't know about directed energy weapons. We started getting burns, and our bodies being cooked in heat and hurt, and and then looked it up and said, oh, okay, these things exist. So people need to look and see that directed energy weapons exist, and then listen to targeted individuals, and then put the pieces together. The mass hysteria conspiracy theory, I guess that's the mainstream lie, that people just all of a sudden, in global groups, like, tens of thousands of people at least around the world, all of a sudden got mass hysteria and started imagining directed energy weapons when they do exist. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it's very, like, I can't believe that people with the cognitive ability to, like, work a job or read or breathe, could think that that's true. To think that just because they're not experiencing something, that it's just like they can just write it off as delusion, as strong delusion. And it seems like society and psychiatry. And I go to a psychiatrist, and she's very good, and I don't know if she believes this or anything like that, but she helps me out. Um, but it's scary, because the psychiatric reprisal, it's so easy for the deep state and the corrupt agents of that are stronger than our government. They have more power than our government. So I'll just say that they can do weird things, and if they do it in a small enough percentage to a small enough percentage of people, that those people can then just go to the mental illness card. I'm going to start saying that. I think that's something that target individuals, the throw the mental illness card instead of the race card, because that's what seems to be happening in a lot of situations, that intelligence agencies and these third-party contractors and the mainstream media that kind of is in collusion with these people. They throw out the mental illness card on everything that needs to be covered up for national security, everything that needs to be covered up that's killing Americans to save Americans, which doesn't make sense at all. So and I think this is common sense to a lot of people who are in the truth community, just people who know the truth, people who are awake to the truth in the world. There shouldn't be a group of people like that. It should not be a movement. It, it's insane. It's insane. There shouldn't be a movement of people who see reality. That's the state of our world. That there has to be a movement, like a truth movement, of people that actually believe in reality, and then there's mainstream people who believe every lie that the government tells us, every lie that authority puts out. I mean, the way of the world right now. This is not justice. It's not how humans should live, but it's the way it is right now. Here's me hoping we can change things so that people cannot be tortured and raped their entire lives because some people want to experiment with directed energy weapons or chemicals or probably other things outside of just the kind of targeting that we experience. Experimentation and social experiments, and let's just see what people do. All right, guys. Well, I digress for about 10 minutes. I'm going to get through this material. This is a very important material. The link is at the top, but it's a really confused. It's like a long link with a bunch of numbers and stuff like that. So I'm going to make sure that I put it in the description so you can just click on it and go straight to it. This is very solid evidence because this is a professor of medicine. I think she's still the professor of medicine. I'm not sure. At UC San Diego. She was actually in the New York Times article. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up real quick. Let's see. New York Times. Times microwaves. And actually, guys, before I get started, okay, let me see if I can find this. Did I pass it up? Here it is. Okay, so I just want to show y'all who I'm talking about. Microwave weapons are prime suspect in ills of U.S. embassy workers. Before I do that, guys, I want to take a slight detour. I just want to show y'all this channel. This is Quantum Theology Radio. This is a very sweet, targeted individual that is a good friend of mine. And she makes videos about like spiritual healing, and just this one is about forgiveness. I haven't listened to it yet. It's her name's Sumaya, and she's on a lot of the conference calls. So I just want to encourage people to please go to Quantum Theology Radio. So Quantum Space Theology Space Radio. Her voice is very soothing, and she's like a spiritual healer and also a physical healer. She helps people with meditation. She also schedules like, I've done a meditation session with her where she brought me through breathing exercises and visualizing, pain leaving the body and calming down and breathing right. She's very good at it, and she has a lot of wisdom. She's been targeted for a long time. But she still remains, like, you talk to her and you just get this sense of peace and love. So anybody who's interested in that, and I think that we all should be. I know that some people are a little, they want to stay on the practical side. I need, passive shielding, and science is the only thing, and stopping this is the only thing, which we need to stop it. But, spiritual healing, meditation, faith, belief, hope, these things lead to concrete victories in this. So I just want to encourage you guys, go check it out, Quantum Theology Radio. And Sumaya has put up a bunch of videos on there, and her voice can just relax you. So, but also what she says is very wise, and she's been going through this a long time. And the videos are on general topics and things like that, but they do really apply to targeted individuals. Okay, so back to this. I just want to show you all the part of the article for anybody. I already did this in a video, but I just want to go to the section with Dr. Ghulam. and when they asked her about it. See if I can find it. This was a long article, I remember. Let me take my sweet time getting there. Here we go. Okay, so this is Dr. Ghulam right here. Beatrice A. Ghulam, a medical doctor and professor of medicine at the University of California, San Diego, here in the beachside office, argues that microwave strikes can explain the diplomatic ills. And I think the part about her is, where is it? Okay, here. To date, the most detailed medical case for microwave strikes has been made by Beatrice A. Ghulam, a medical doctor and professor of medicine at the University of California, San Diego. In a forthcoming paper to be published in October in Neural Computation, a peer-reviewed journal of the MIT Press, she lays out potential medical evidence for Cuban microwave strikes. She compared the symptoms of the diplomats in Cuba to those reported for individuals said to be suffering from radio frequency sickness. The health responses of the two groups, Dr. Ghulam wrote, conform closely. In closing, she argued that numerous highly specific features of the diplomatic incidents fit the hypothesis of a microwave attack, including the fry-type production of disturbing sounds. Okay, so now I want to go to that article that they are talking about, and I want to read it to you guys. Okay, abstract. Importance. A mystery illness striking U.S. and Canadian diplomats to Cuba, and now China, has confounded the FBI, the State Department, and U.S. intelligence agencies. Sonic explanations for the so-called health attacks have long dominated media reports, propelled by peculiar sounds heard and auditory symptoms experienced. Sonic meditation was justly rejected by experts. We assessed whether pulsed radio frequency / microwave radiation exposure can accommodate facts, including unusual ones reported in diplomats. Observations. 1. Noises. Chirping, ringing, or grinding noises were heard at night during episodes reportedly triggering health problems by many diplomats. Some reported that sounds were localized with laser-like precision, or said the sounds seemed to follow them within the territory in which they were perceived. Pulsed RF / microwave engenders just these apparent sounds via the Fry effect. Perceived sounds differ by head dimensions and pulse characteristics, and can be perceived as located behind, in, or above the head. Now I want to say right now, my V2K is coming from that direction. Now when I get into my Faraday bunker, my V2K is from this direction, and they change it up all the time. So that's a perceived sound, like I'm perceiving it. It's a signal to my inner ear, but it's not actually going through the outer ear. So that's kind of what she's talking about, the Fry effect. Number 2. Okay, wait. In or above the head, ability to hear the sounds depends on high frequency hearing and low ambient noise. Number 2, signs / symptoms. Hearing loss and tinnitus are prominent in affected diplomats, and in RF microwave affected individuals, yes. Each of the protean symptoms that diplomats report also affect persons reporting symptoms from RF / microwave. Sleep problems, headaches, like I have a huge headache right now, it's no joke, and cognitive problems dominate in both groups. Sensations of pressure or vibration figure in each. Both encompass vision, balance, and speech problems, and nosebleeds. Brain injury and brain swelling are reported in both. Mechanisms. Number 3, mechanisms. Oxidative stress provides a documented mechanism of RF / microwave injury compatible with reported signs and symptoms. Sequelae of endothelial dysfunction. Yielding blood flow compromise. Membrane damage, blood-brain barrier disruption, and, well, I'm not going to go into that right now. Mitochondrial injury, apoptosis and autoimmune triggering afford downstream mechanisms of varying persistence that merit investigation. Number 4, of note, microwaving of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow is historically documented. It's historically documented. It was written in many papers. Russia said that they did it. The U.S. knew that they did it. It was remote microwaves. And I'm glad she's bringing that up. That's awesome, because I just did a video where I went over that. So that is historically documented that remote microwaves hit the embassy workers in Moscow, like in 1953 to like 1976. One second. I gotta get some caffeine or something. I've been up for a while, but I didn't listen to Dave Case's CD last night, and I'm just not feeling really well today. I'm gonna figure out. I'm gonna work on my cleansing stuff better and supplements, and put some more layers on my Faraday bunker, and just work on a lot of stuff. Maybe get something else for grounding. Kind of just work on my defenses. Start feeling better, because I'm just not doing good at all. I don't know. My brain just feels like it's not even working. I'm gonna put this over here so I can grab it. Conclusions and relevance. Reported facts appear consistent with pulsed RF/microwave as the source of injury in Cuba diplomats. Non-diplomats citing symptoms from RF/microwaves, often with an inciting pulsed RF/microwave exposure, report compatible health conditions. Under the RF/microwave hypothesis, lessons learned for diplomats and for RF/microwave affected civilians may each aid each other. So she's saying that right now. She's saying targeted individuals. Lessons learned for diplomats and for RF/microwave affected civilians may each aid each other. That's great. I think she knows that she's trying to maybe get the word out about regular civilians being microwaved too, and she's saying it in the I guess the thesis, whatever you want to call it. What was it called? At the abstract of it. Okay, introduction. More than 24 American diplomats in Cuba and their families, plus a smattering of Canadian diplomats in Cuba and their families, reportedly developed a mysterious illness. And that has confounded the FBI, the State Department, and U.S. intelligence agencies, which, I doubt. I guarantee you that U.S. intelligence agencies and the FBI know that this is directed energy weapons, and maybe that will come out and I'll be proven right. So mark my words. I guarantee you that U.S. intelligence agencies and the FBI know about this. Maybe not all of them like that it's happening, but they probably all know, most likely, or the majority. Baffling U.S. officials. It's just mystery after mystery after mystery. Problems began, and she cites all this. She has 560 something notations, footnotes in this. So it's a well-cited scientific document. So take that, all you people saying that we're crazy. This is a well-cited scientific journal document. Okay, problems began in 2016. Began to be widely reported in 2017, and as of January 2018, we are not much further ahead than we were in finding out why this occurred, Undersecretary of State Steve Goldstein said. Similar problems first were recognized in China in April 2018, and a number of diplomats at the U.S. consulate in Guangzhou, China, have been sent home with similar symptoms. By June's end, at least 8 from the consulate in Guangzhou and at least 11 from China more broadly. Media reports have long characterized these so-called health attacks as sonic attacks. This characterization persisted despite rejection of sonic explanations by experts. Example, no single sonic gadget seems to explain such an odd, inconsistent array of physical responses. Per psychoacoustics expert Joseph Pompey, brain damage and concussions, it's not possible. Somebody would have to submerge their head in powerful ultrasound transducers. Some suggested a viral hypothesis, but this fails to explain many features of these cases, including the strange noises associated with inciting events in some. And there isn't a known viral illness with a compatible profile of the symptoms. Though officials told senators the U.S. government knew of no weapons, sonic or otherwise, that could produce the effects seen in Cuba patients. To this date, some media sources continue to reference sonic attacks. A different explanation is proposed that it is suggested better accommodates the facts, including the odd, inconsistent array of physical responses and other mysterious and protean features reported. Reported features are assessed for compatibility to known effects of radio frequency/microwave radiation, particularly pulsed radio frequency/microwave radiation. Symptoms and signs are assessed against symptoms and signs reported by people that report health effects from radio frequency microwave radiation exposure, a condition that has been termed radio frequency sickness, microwave syndrome, or to encompass people experiencing problems from exposures beyond a specific part of the electromagnetic spectrum, electromagnetic sensitivity, electrosensitivity, or electro-hypersensitivity. Okay, now she's going to go through her methods. Features of diplomats, health attacks, origins, symptoms, and findings are delineated and examined in relation to evidence regarding symptoms from radio frequencies/microwaves. Features to be examined for compatibility with radio frequency/microwave explanation include the following. Strange noises were heard by some diplomats during apparent inciting episodes. The noises that were heard differed markedly for different diplomats. The various descriptions included high-pitched chirping similar to crickets or cicadas, ringing and grinding. The noises were heard primarily at night. Other diplomats heard no noises and were not aware of any inciting episodes, just onset of symptoms. In at least some cases, incidents and noises were confined to parts of the rooms with laser-like specificity. And within the area in which a sound was perceived, it seemed to follow the person around the room. Auditory symptoms are a prominently reported and distinctive feature, though not present in all, and include hearing loss and tinnitus, and particularly during inciting episodes, in some, ear pain. Other symptoms are protean and vary markedly from individual to individual. An odd, inconsistent array of physical symptoms, sleep symptoms, headache, cognitive dysfunction, and fatigue are prominent among the nonspecific symptoms. In some, problems were temporary and apparently recovered with time away from exposure. Others experienced persistent problems. Potentially objectively measurable problems with speech, balance, and vision, as well as epistaxis, nosebleed, are a feature in some. Peculiar sensory symptoms of pressure and vibration are reported. Brain injury, white matter abnormalities, and brain swelling have been reported. And I need to really, see, because I'm not sure how many of them had the white matter abnormalities, and that's why I went and got my DTI. But my neurologist didn't even do the report. Another neurologist did the report, and he said that there was nothing. I just think he didn't know what he was looking for. He was looking for something like structural brain damage and structural damage to the white matter tracts. I think that when these guys were tested, they were looking for something different, but I'm not even sure. I think that it was only a few of them who had white matter tract abnormalities. We really need to look into that and make sure. I need to. But if you do have that information, if all of them had that, or only a few, if you could put that in the comments, guys, I would really appreciate that. I do think that it was like 4 or something like that. but I could be misremembering. I could be really misremembering that. Which then because the case is, well, I won't go too much into my individual situation, but the deal is if they all experience damage to the white matter tracts of their brain, which I don't think is the case, then I would be very, very worried about my DTI. Either the neurologist did not know what he was looking for, and there was damage to my white matter tracts, and still is, or there was medical COINTELPRO, which I would hate to think happened, but with something like this where they're spending so much money and these intelligence agencies are trying to cover it up and doctors are in fear for their own families being hit with this stuff, I cannot rule that out. But back to this, I don't want to talk too much about my personal situation. I do want to just get through this material. It's important material, guys. This is more solid proof and solid foundation. And this is a huge dot to connect. Huge dot. It's like this big. Big dot. Okay. Hate these stupid Q-wave defenders. Took like the two front of them off, so I probably don't look as boxy right now, but they work. I got a bunch of them. I wouldn't recommend getting as many as I did, but they actually do put out they put out positive frequencies that kind of create a shield. I've tried to take them all off before because I was like, oh, they don't work. They don't work. Everybody says they don't work, but I already knew they did work. But I was just I was like, maybe my attackers want me to wear them or something like that. So they're laying off for such a long period of time. But I'd take them off, and man, the external microwave hits would increase tenfold, if not more. So I do what I got to do. I think every targeted individual has to kind of make a decision. If they want to defend with some pretty weird stuff, or if they want to just have the full brunt of all the pain. I don't know what would have happened. I don't know. I wouldn't be making videos. I don't think if I didn't defend myself or use Dave Case's CD or do most of the stuff I have done. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd be talking right now. Like I don't know if I don't know. I guess I don't want to think about it. All right, guys. To assess compatibility of symptoms in diplomats with those experiencing symptoms from radio frequency / microwaves, we focus on those who are symptomatic in each group. Only a minority of embassy staff were stricken, and it is these who have been reported upon and studied. The appropriate comparator are the minority who are symptomatic from radio frequency / microwave exposures. Peer-reviewed publications are the primary source of information. However, the most authoritative source for information about symptoms and experiences of individuals is affected individuals themselves. Peer review confers no benefit and has no power to adjudicate individuals' reports. For this reason, peer-reviewed literature to address issues of science is complemented by sources that have elicited and reported on symptoms and experiences of diplomats or of radio frequency / microwave affected individuals, extending to encompass news reports, surveys, statements of affected individuals, or when applicable, other gray literature. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure what gray literature is. For diplomats, gray, I guess newspaper stuff. For diplomats, news and media reports are complemented by a JAMA report, which I don't think I ever went over. I think I mentioned that on my videos. A JAMA report focused on neurological symptoms in diplomats, information that references news rather than science, also cites media sources. Mechanisms by which radio frequency / microwave may cause reported problems are cursorily addressed. Sources of radio frequency / microwave reported to affect the comparator group and potential radio frequency / microwave sources of diplomat symptoms are briefly reviewed. Results. And she has a bunch of tables comparing Well, I guess when we get there, I'll explain it. But she has a bunch of tables comparing the Cuban embassy workers who were attacked with microwave weapons, directed energy weapons, comparing them to all these other test groups who experienced radio frequency microwave um, not necessarily attacks from directed energy weapons, but effects from smart meters, effects from cell phones, and we'll go over that in a little while. But she has a comparative test of people who were reported to have been affected by non-ionizing microwave radiation in other situations, not necessarily mysterious weapons. The things that are hitting my head right now, and it really sucks. It's getting very hard, just beyond insane. I don't see. I hate. I just it's crazy and it breaks my heart, and I feel like the world has taken a very bad turn, but it's been a long. I guess it's been a long journey to this dark place where people are dying, and it's from something that's so concrete. And people kind of discuss it like a conspiracy theory, like, oh no, I don't think those targeted individuals are, they're all crazy. And then there's another side that knows that it's happened, saying no, it's really true. And we treat like horrible things that are happening that need immediate attention. We treat them like some kind of conspiracy theory for the people who aren't experiencing it, who may be comfortable to just discuss if it even exists. That's a dark times. This is dark times. We live in extremely dark times. But I sometimes question if maybe all times were dark. And when I was a child in America, I just had well, let's not go into that because I'm pretty depressed from all this. So the world is actually good. There are a lot of things good in the world. There are many great people in the world. Um, this stuff is a definite one-off for a small percentage of people, and then pretty large percentage of people doing it, but a small percentage of those people who actually know the whole score, the whole picture of what they're doing and how bad it is. I'm depressing myself, so let's move on. Results. Table 1. Reviews characteristics of noises reported by diplomats in inciting episodes and compatibility with radio frequency / microwave. Pulsed radio frequency / microwave in the 2.4 to 10,000 megahertz range produces perceived noises that resemble sounds, such as a click, buzz, hiss, knock, or chirp, just as diplomats report. Yeah, I was gonna say something. I'll just keep going. I'm kind of doing too much editorializing here. Ability to hear fry sounds is reported to depend on high frequency hearing and on low ambient noise, through a phenomenon termed the fry effect. Synonyms include microwave auditory effect, RF hearing, and variations of these. This fits reports that noises were not universally perceived. The requirement for low ambient noise accounts for perception of sounds primarily at night. The primary pitch perceived reportedly relates to head dimensions, in addition to pulse waveform and other characteristics, accounting for different sounds perceived by different diplomats. Sounds were localized with laser-like specificity in some cases. Supposedly defying known physics. And yeah, I mean, this stuff is new technology that does defy the mainstream physics, I guess. This may defy the physics of sound, but not the physics of radio frequencies and microwaves. So the attacks defied the physics of sound. So saying it's a sonic weapon, they're like, well, a sonic weapon, it would have had to been line of sight, blah 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 blah, but does not defy the physics of radio frequency and microwave attacks or effects from a laser like specificity. I like that word. I'm very thankful. I mean, I can read big words and stuff. Like I have trouble finding words sometimes, but that it helps to read some of this stuff, and I thank God for that. You know, I always read a lot. I was a very good speller, so it's helped me to not lose some things. But let's get back. Um, this may defy the physics of sound, and just a random thought that I had that I was thankful for that. But this may defy the physics of sound, but not the physics of radio frequency microwaves. Lasers are electromagnetic radiation. One diplomat reported that the sound seemed to follow him within the space of which it was heard. I don't really understand that, so I'm going to read it again. One diplomat reported that the sound seemed to follow him within the space in which it was heard. Okay. Fry sounds are also reported to follow the person, often perceived as slightly behind the head, regardless of the body orientation relative to the source of radiation. Okay, yeah, okay, and I can give a specific example for my targeting with my V2K. Now, my tinnitus-like sound always kind of sounds like it's like right here, outside of the ears a little bit. If I'm listening to Dave Case's CD. Now, if I'm not, it feels like my head is filled up with that buzzing or hissing sound, that high-pitched tinnitus-like sound. Now, my V2K, though, right now it's coming from like front to the left, well, a little bit more to the left right there. Now, if I get up and walk to the kitchen, I'm still going to hear it from the left side of my head. So it retains that same position because the microwave hearing effect is sending it to a certain part of my brain that's perceiving the sound. So it's going down to my inner ear, but I'm perceiving the sound a certain way. Now, I'm not sure specifically how they do that, but she's talking about that right here. I may need to read this a second time because I'm always interested in how they do that. And they switch it to my right when I get my Faraday bunker. So it sounds like it's coming in from my right side, but I'm just perceiving it different. Okay, ability to hear fry sounds is reported to depend on high frequency hearing and on low ambient noise. Oh, you go back down. One diplomat. Okay, fry sounds are also reported to follow the person, often perceived as slightly behind the head, regardless of the body orientation relative to the source of radiation. Of note, Fry induction is not governed by average radiation intensity, but the energy in a single pulse. That's some I don't even know what I'm reading right there. Analogously, if a jackhammer hit each 2 minutes, the low time average pressure would not explain the damage. The low time average pressure would not explain the damage. I'm going to maybe have to come back to that. Okay, Table 2 reviews diplomats, symptoms, and signs, and compatibility of these with radio frequency / microwaves. Auditory symptoms, including tinnitus. I would say tinnitus-like sound because I think tinnitus is actually it's an organic symptom of something. So I say tinnitus-like sound. Hearing loss and ear pain or pressure are prominent in diplomats and in persons affected by radio frequency / microwaves. Symptoms are protean in both groups. I do not know what protean means. I think that means the same or something like that. Okay, prevalent among non-auditory, non-specific symptoms are sleep problems, headaches, cognitive problems, and to a lesser degree, dizziness and nausea. Additional more specific symptoms that are, in principle, objectively measurable include problems of balance, speech, vision, and epistaxis. And note that's nosebleeds. Peculiar sensory symptoms are reported in both, including pressure and vibrations. Reported brain findings have included brain swelling, problems consistent with traumatic brain injury, and white matter abnormalities. Each such feature is also observed in those symptoms ascribed to radio frequency / microwaves. Table 3 lists symptoms commonly reported in diplomats together with percentages reporting each symptom. For symptoms assessed in the neurological appraisal of Cuban diplomats or mentioned in news reports, These symptoms, when elicited, are ranked by prevalence in surveys of persons exposed to specific sources of radio frequency or microwaves, or with symptoms ascribed to EMR exposure, electromagnetic radiation exposure. Fractions of symptomatic diplomats who report each symptom appear similar to fractions of those symptomatic with EMR symptoms who do so. Comparing rates in diplomats to those in a peer-reviewed study of EMR-affected individuals on symptoms tallied in both, symptom rates were headache 81% versus 81%, cognitive problems 81% versus 81%, sleep problems 86% versus 76%, irritability 67%. So these are the averages, I think. Comparing rates in diplomats to those in peer-reviewed study of EMR affected individuals. So those are in these other, and I'll show you all the tables in a second, from people who were exposed to electromagnetic radiation and other in other situations. So headache, 81% versus 81%. So that seems to match up. Cognitive problems, 81% versus 81%. Sleep problems, 86% versus 76%. Irritability, 67% versus 56%. I get that a lot. That I am very irritable a lot, and have a big problem with that. Not necessarily mean to people, but very irritable. You know. But people would tell you otherwise because I'm awesome. Nervousness / anxiety, 52% versus 56%. Dizziness, 67% versus 64%. Tinnitus like sound. I can't say tinnitus because tinnitus like sound. I just can't do it. I can't say tinnitus. That's not what it is. 57% versus 63%. Thus, rates conform very closely. Hey guys, and if I'm ever rubbing my nose or scratching my face or something, I'm not trying to gang stalk anybody. I guess it's just weird. I get when I'm anxious, I kind of rub my face and stuff like that. So I would not do that to you guys because I'm not a gang stalker. I am the gang stalked, which sucks. Survivor of being gang stalked and attacked. Directed energy weapons. Surviving, Kyle. You can survive. You guys can survive. We are surviving. We're still alive. Okay. The rates of symptoms reported for diplomats appear within reported variation for studies of persons affected by RF, microwave, electromagnetic radiation. Sleep problems were reported somewhat less frequently in EMR-affected persons in the Cato study, 76%, than in diplomats, but reported sleep problems or their byproduct fatigue, for which prevalence was not recorded in the diplomat study. Dominant the number one symptom position in studies of RF microwave affected persons, Table 3, and prevalence of sleep problems was higher for the diplomats in some other studies of radiofrequency microwave affected persons. Of note, the Cato study was performed in Japan, where the traditional diet is rich in fish, which supply the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids that reportedly benefit sleep and reduce irritability. The two symptoms that were greater than 3% lower than in affected diplomats. So that's, I think targeted individuals, we all talk about that and know that, but that's important information that omega-3 fatty acids, we need to be taking those. I take so many supplements, I don't take omega-3 fatty acids, but I might incorporate it into my supplement intake. The protein character of symptoms in diplomats, as for radiofrequency microwave affected individuals, has led some to infer that a single cause cannot account for all. Okay, so protein is different, like all different. I said it was the same earlier, but it's not. It means different. But a number of reports in a number of nations and settings tie radio frequency / microwave exposure in vulnerable individuals to each of the problems reported in diplomats. The coherence of findings in those citing effects of radio frequency / microwaves with findings in diplomats supports a common cause within each group and across the two groups. Of note, a protein suite of generally the same symptoms but in different distribution is reported in other conditions that are tied to mitochondrial alteration and oxidative stress. Mechanisms which each promote the other, mechanisms which each promote the other, mitochondrial alteration and oxidative stress. Radio frequency / microwaves is tied to these mechanisms. However, the distinctive prominence of sleep and auditory symptoms, the peculiar somatic sensory experiences of pressure and vibration, and the noises perceived during apparent inciting episodes are relatively distinctive features, distinctive to diplomats' reports and to reported RF microwave problems. Table 4 reviews several. Maybe I should go down to the tables first because she's explaining them and just show y'all, and then we'll go back. So I'm on table 4 up here. It's really long. I might just read that down to the end. I might just show y'all the tables. Here's table 1, the diplomats' reports. I want to just go through them, huh? It's really important information. Table 2, symptoms and signs. Say effects. And then this is table 3. See, this is to your left. Would that be to y'all's left? I think so. To the left, it would be the Cuban diplomats, and then it goes across for these other incidents, and it says what the related, like in Australia in 2014, it was 92 residents who had smart meter exposure. In the U.S. in 2011, it was 318 U.S. Respondents for smart meter exposure. In U.S. in 2013, 210 United States, American smart meter exposure. In France, 2002, proximity of cell phone base stations, 530 French people. Japan in 2012, that was the Kato incident, 75 Japanese with ES or EMF sensitivity. It was 75 of them. And then in 2015, 202 people in the U.S. With electromagnetic sensitivity. Netherlands, 2007, electromagnetic sensitivity. Sweden, 2006, electromagnetic sensitivity acute phase, so very, very bad electromagnetic sensitivity. 22 with electromagnetic sensitivity. Ranked symptoms most common were listed, not ranked. And then in Finland, 2013, there were 194 with electromagnetic sensitivity in an acute phase. In 2017 in Turkey, 2,150 students in 26 high schools in Turkey, cell phone use, symptoms during cell phone use. So she compares what the Cuban embassy workers went through with these other exposures to microwave radiation and radio frequencies. And I'll go through that. I'll go through that after I finish reading it. But just so y'all understand what she's talking about for those tables. And then, of course, I'm going to put the link in the description for the video so y'all can come here and check out the tables yourself. This is really good proof. Just a really good scientific article. And hopefully she'll talk to a lot of her colleagues and get them to help us and write more scientific articles about this. Maybe write some scientific articles about us. compare us and compare symptoms that we have. Do the same thing with these tables. Maybe compare us to the Cuban embassy workers, on a table such as this. If we could get her or, James Lynn to maybe help doing that. So this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Yeah, I'll come back down and read as much as I can. I guess I'll go. I'm pretty tired, but I can just relax and get through it. Just get through it how I can get through it. Okay, here we were at table 4. Where am I at here? Yeah, that'll be cool. I'll just go to 2 hours and I'll go through as much as I can. And anything that I can't go through, I'll probably be to table 4 at 2. Well, I'll figure that out in my own head. I am going to take my Cuban. This is Cuban extra pain relief. I got the extra pain relief. It has curcumin and turmeric in it. So I'm going to take one of these to try and get rid of this headache. It's all natural too. Good. It's like I'm doing an advertisement for Coca-Cola and Cuban and electronic cigarettes. In Star Wars. Right here. All right, so wait, I'm gonna make y'all wait one more second. Table 4 reviews several mechanism considerations. Central to this is the critical role of oxidative stress and the relevance of oxidative stress to potential auxiliary mechanisms, such as mitochondrial dysfunction, blood-brain barrier disruption, membrane alterations, impaired blood flow, apoptosis, which I don't know what that means. They said it earlier, but I can't remember. Effects on voltage-gated calcium anion channels. That's somebody, Charles. Charles, if you see him in the comment, he sent me something about calcium channels and iodine channels. No, potassium channels and calcium channels, and it was way over my head. I'm gonna get to it though, because he sent it, and I'll just read it, and maybe he can put something in the comments that I missed. But I'm just gonna read it. But this severely affects our calcium channels and anion channels and potassium channels. Okay, so effects on voltage-gated calcium and anion channels and triggering of autoimmune reactions. In some cases, effects are reciprocal. At least it's not a but this time, guys. If you don't understand the reference, well, we won't go there. We won't go there. But that was funny. Okay, okay, in some cases are reciprocal. Oxidative stress promotes mitochondrial dysfunction, calcium channel effects, inflammation, autoimmunity, which in turn can promote oxidative stress. So it's like a cycle. One analysis found that of 100 evaluated studies that examine the relationship of low-level radiofrequency microwave to oxidative stress in biological system, 93% supported a connection. A role for oxidative stress in radiofrequency microwave electromagnetic radiation affected persons is cemented by evidence that gene polymorphisms adverse to antioxidant defense are significantly more prevalent in persons experiencing symptoms from radiofrequency microwave / electromagnetic radiation. I'm just read that sentence and don't understand it. Additionally, levels of a particular antioxidant melatonin, known to be critical for radiofrequency microwave and broader EMR defense, are consistently low in affected persons, assessed by urinary metabolite. So I take melatonin every night. I take at least 10 milligrams, sometimes a lot more. Melatonin is very, very important. Very, very important. And so let me read that again so we can all take our melatonin, all survivors of this electromagnetic radiation attacks. Additionally, levels of a particular antioxidant, melatonin, known to be critical for RF, microwave, and broader EMR defense, are consistently low in affected persons, assessed by urinary metabolite. Oxidative stress has been tied to each of the symptoms and conditions reported in diplomats and radio frequency / microwave affected persons. I'm actually out of melatonin right now. I just took my last melatonin last night, so I gotta go get more of that. Also noteworthy is the repudiation of psychogenic causation in the evaluation of diplomats, which holds for radiofrequency microwave affected persons as well. Case narratives for those affected by radiofrequency microwave underscores that for many symptoms developed and progressed when affected parties as yet had no knowledge that an RF microwave emitting device had been introduced, nor that one could cause problems. A Swiss telecom-funded study found that sleep problems related to the electromagnetic field strength of the transmitter and did not correlate with personality traits tied to worry about health. You okay, boo-boo? You gotta go out? You gotta just hold it for a second. That's my doggy. You gotta go out right now. Not really talking to her, but I just kind of think sometimes she may understand me. Go lay down. Go lay down, boo. Alright, guys, I might have to make this a two-parter, which I'm going to hate doing. Oh, yeah, she's walking to the door. Let me at least get through the written part of it, and then maybe I'll go through the tables. I really don't want to. Let's continue. A Swiss telecom-funded study found that sleep problems related to the electromagnetic field strength of the transmitter and did not correlate with personality traits tied to worry about health. The circumstance that some report being affected severely by levels of exposure that cause others no problem is reviewed in the context of effect modification, variations in antioxidant defenses, and demonstrated variable involvement of secondary mechanisms such as autoimmune activation. In fact, analogous marked differences in harm or development of health effects are well known for other exposures, such as peanuts, penicillin, and pesticides. For EMR-affected persons, as for many other exposure-related illnesses, genetic influences on phase 1 or phase 2 detoxification, as well as factors that inhibit or compete for detoxification systems, play a dominant role in who develops health effects. Phase 2 detoxification encompasses protections against oxidative damage. Table 5 briefly addresses the range of RF microwave sources that have been presumptively tied to problems. It observes that radiofrequency microwave / microwave radiation is known to have been used on the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. There is precedent for use on diplomats. That instance, though with presumably differing details of exposure, led to disputed reports of health effects in embassy staff and shielding efforts by the U.S. Since the exposing device can be outside the building and typically has been for persons affected by radiofrequency microwave emitting utility meters, failure of the FBI to find devices in sweeps of diplomats' rooms remains compatible with this explanation. So the FBI did not find any devices in the actual rooms of the diplomats. Okay, I'm not sure if that, yeah, I guess that was in Moscow. I wonder if I guess they didn't find any devices in the Cuban embassy workers either. So discussion, recap of findings. Health effects reported by U.S. and Canadian diplomats and family members in Cuba and China and the circumstances surrounding inciting episodes are consistent with effects of radiofrequency / microwaves. Reports of perceived sounds fit known characteristics reported for the Fry effect, RF hearing and microwave hearing. Sounds were heard by some but not other diplomats during inciting episodes. Sounds differed in character from person to person. Sounds included chirping, ringing, and grinding. Sounds were heard predominantly at night. Sounds were localized with laser-like specificity in some of the cases, and within that localization seemed to follow people. Prominence of auditory symptoms, including hearing loss, tinnitus-like sound, and ear pain in diplomat reports, typify reports of injury from pulsed radio frequency microwaves. Presence of variable additional symptoms of protean character that differ markedly from person to person, with a relative emphasis on sleep disturbance, headaches, and cognitive problems. Plus, presence in smaller subsets of vision, balance, and speech problems are also characteristic. Affected persons in both groups report sensory symptoms of pressure and vibrations. Persons in both groups show evidence of brain injury. Reports in both indicate that some persons had prior head injury, and brain injury may be a predisposing factor for, as well as a consequence of radio frequency / microwave injury. Both show varying rates of symptom persistence. How subsequent natural history will compare for diplomat symptoms that might follow more intense discrete exposure. A more intense exposure may produce problems in persons who need not have relative vulnerability, versus follow repeated, less intense ones producing symptoms. Evidence suggests selectively in persons more vulnerable to free radical injury from RF microwaves at a level to which they will likely have subsequent exposure is not known. So she's talking about people with electromagnetic sensitivity, more vulnerable to free radical injury. Okay. Fit with literature. Evidence for health effects of radio frequency microwave is not new. By the early 1930s, studies were citing compatible symptoms in radio amateurs and shipboard radio operators. By 1971 and 1972, a naval report bearing over 2,300 citations, many from Russia and Eastern Europe, documented health effects of microwave / RF / microwave. Emphasizing non-ionizing radiation at these frequencies. Contrary to claims by industry-affiliated parties, copious evidence documents that radiation that is not ionizing can also cause health effects. Entire sections of the 1971-1972 report were devoted to each of a number of the symptoms that diplomats are now reporting, including insomnia, headache, fatigue, cognitive problems, and dizziness. Injury from non-ionizing radiation occurs also with measurable heating, non-thermal radiation. Injury from non-ionizing radiation occurs also with measurable heating, non-thermal radiation. Indeed, oxidative stress, which mediates non-thermal effects, also mediates thermal effects, and melatonin, which defends against oxidative radio frequency / microwave injury, also defends against so-called thermal injury. Moreover, other sources of heat do not produce the same so-called thermal damage that radio frequency / microwave does. What are deemed thermal effects may be among the manifestations of oxidative injury, while a low percentage of individuals experience overt symptoms from usual radio frequency / microwave. The absolute number may be vast. The fraction with electrosensitivity, electromagnetic illness has been estimated at between 1 and 5% and apparently rising. Limitations. Features of diplomats' experiences rely on media reports and one published neurological evaluation. We did not examine diplomats. However, in conditions with highly distinctive characteristics, the history is often the most important factor in the diagnosis, and diplomats' reports bear highly distinctive characteristics. The close matching of these distinctive characteristics to those of persons with health problems arising in apparent relation to pulsed radio frequency / microwave provides a basis for concern that radio frequency / microwave exposures may underlie diplomat symptoms and health conditions. A tremendous number of physicians and scientists and entities and scientific studies and government reports in many nations over many decades have identified that radio frequency / microwave causes symptoms consistent with the spectrum now described for diplomats. Scientific skepticism skepticism. I don't know why it's probably because I hope Pepper doesn't go on the floor. All right, I'll deal with that in a second. I might have to break this up in two parts, guys. Scientific skepticism. I think she means. I think she's slyly saying propaganda. Scientific skepticism about radio frequency microwave health effects is well represented in the literature, but is of the industry-fueled stripe. Think tobacco. Think tobacco. That's a very good point. Effects of conflicts of interest can result of interest on research results as well as on funding, regulatory agencies, legislation, and academics via radio frequency / microwave has been repeatedly documented and decried. I just want to read that again. Effects of conflicts of interest on research results as well as on funding, regulatory agencies, legislation, and academics via radio frequency / microwave has been repeatedly documented and decried. And evidence of this influence parallels evidence of potent impact of conflict of interest in medicine more generally. In one illustrative analysis, studies of health effects of cell phones that were funded exclusively by industry were least likely to report a significant effect, relative to studies funded exclusively by public agencies or charities. The odds ratio was 0.11, 95%. Or 0.11, I guess 11%. Where the odds ratio was 0.11, 95%. That is, the odds were a tenth as great for a significant finding in a study in purely industry-funded studies. A tenth as great, yeah, that makes sense. The finding was not materially altered when analysis was adjusted for factors like study quality. Richard Smith, then editor-in-chief of the BMJ, the British Medical Journal, penned an article, Conflicts of Interest, How Money Clouds Objectivity. Yeah, it has. I mean, because a lot of people are making money off of directed energy weapons. A lot of people are making money off of computers and iPhones. And iPhones put out a lot of non-ionizing microwave radiation. I mean, like, I've never, my phone heats up. It doesn't shoot directed energy or anything, but there's still non-ionizing microwave coming from it. Penned an article, Conflicts of Interest, How Money Clouds Objectivity. Responding to evidence tying study results on a different lucrative product, tobacco, to conflicts of interest often undisclosed, he suggested that far from conflict of interest being unimportant in the objective and pure world of science, where method and the quality of data is everything, it is the main factor determining the result of the studies. Wow. Let's go down to conclusions, implications. Numerous highly specific features of diplomats' experiences and symptoms fit the hypothesis of radio frequency / microwave injury. To distinguish between sonic and microwave hypotheses, earplugs can be issued to diplomats for use in candidate episodes. Example, strange noise plus ear pain. Earplugs will mute sonic sources. Caveat, a sound like crickets chirping may in fact be crickets chirping, but not microwave ones, which may even be intensified. Monitoring for culpable radiation sources must sensitively capture pulsed radio frequency / microwave, including that which may be used only on an intermittent basis. It should encompass the 2.4 to 10,000 megahertz range in which the Fry effect has been reported. Perhaps attention to diplomats' plight can ignite awareness of the many others affected by similar problems. Meanwhile, I read this the other day on one of my videos. Meanwhile, research already documenting compatible health effects of RF microwave in a subgroup may inform those caring for diplomats and those in pursuit of causative devices. Perhaps attention to the diplomat's plight can ignite awareness of the many others affected by similar problems. and a lot of you probably watching my video. Okay, so these are the tables down here. I don't know if I'm going to go through all of them. I'll put the link in the description. Let me go through as much as I can. I'm just worried that my dog is going to go on the floor. Like she's been fine today, and all of a sudden when I make this video, she goes straight to the door, and that really is very suspicious. I just is very suspect that my attackers are doing something to her to make her have to use the bathroom all the time. So suspect, and that's the kind of, I mean, it's horrifying that they, you know, hurt animals and stuff to hurt the targets. But all right, so table 1, features of noises reported by diplomats during apparent inciting episodes. Though sound refers to air pressure waves, we refer to what diplomats heard as perceived sound. Strange noises were heard by many of the 24 medically confirmed affected U.S. diplomats during what were perceived as inciting episodes. Sound ordinarily results from air pressure, compatibility with radio frequency microwave. Sound ordinarily results from air pressure waves, which are longitudinal waves. Variation occurs along the direction of travel of the wave, whereas radiation arises from electromagnetic waves, which are transverse waves. Variation occurs perpendicular to the direction of travel of the wave. In each case, a frequency is defined by the number of cycles of the wave that pass, say, a given point per second for the respective wave type. Though electromagnetic signals are not themselves sound, radio frequency microwave can lead to perceived noises via the so-called Fry effect, aka microwave hearing, aka radio frequency hearing. A 1976 Defense Intelligence Agency report stated, sounds and possibly even words which appear to be originating intracranially can be induced by a signal modulation at a very low average power densities. A 1994 Air Force Materiel Command report stated, based on knowledge at the time, that individuals exposed to pulsed radio frequency microwave radiation have reported hearing a chirping, clicking, or buzzing sound emanating from inside or behind the head. The auditory response has been observed only for pulse-modulated radiation emitted as a square wave pulse train. The pulse width and pulse repetition rate are factors that appear to determine the type of sound perceived. James Lynn reports that the sensation of hearing in humans occurs when the head is irradiated in an average incident power density level of about 0.1 microwatts over centimeter squared. I think that's what that is. And a peak intensity near 300 microwatts, it's milliwatts over centimeter squared. Auditory responses have been observed for a frequency range of 200 to 3,000 megahertz and for pulse widths from 1 to 100. I'm not sure what that sign is. I should know. Is that microtesla? Is that Tesla's? I'm not sure. She has a thing down at the bottom. Oh, I should know that because I do readings. Megahertz. Gausses, is that Gausses, I think? 1 to 100 Gauss, I think. The frequency range within which sounds can be heard was broadened by 2003. It was reported that sounds can be perceived by persons exposed to radio frequency / microwave in 2.4 to 10,000 megahertz range. It was noted that the same frequency did not produce the same sound from person to person. Not all diplomats heard noises. Ability to hear radio frequency microwave-induced sounds, using the term to refer to the perception, not the stimulus, at all depends on individuals' high-frequency hearing as well as on low ambient noise. Among those who heard noises, the noises reported differed markedly for different diplomats. In radio frequency hearing, microwave hearing, the primary pitch heard, i.e. the perceived sound frequency, reportedly relates not to the radiation frequency cycles per second, but to head dimensions. This comports with reports that different sounds were heard by different diplomats, even if they were exposed to the same frequency or conceivably frequencies plural of radiation. Of note, whether sound is perceived from radio frequency microwave is not governed by the average radiation level, but the energy in a single pulse. Injury to cells, in part through membrane damage, is also materially greater with pulsed radiation. Analogously, if a jackhammer hit very hard but very briefly at 2-minute intervals, the low time average pressure would not explain the effects produced. Pulses of comparatively high intensity relative to typical exposures from technology would have likely been necessary to produce the comparatively high prevalence of fry compatible sounds and of health effects reported among U.S. diplomats. The relatively high proportion of affected diplomats reporting fry-type noises suggests the possibility of comparatively high intensity of pulses and frequencies within the designated 2.4 to 10,000 megahertz range. So the next one on table 1, these noises included a high-pitched chirping, ringing, and grinding. Fry sounds are similar to other common sounds, such as a click, buzz, hiss, knock, or chirp, consistent with the sounds that diplomats reported. In a 2007 Dutch survey completed by 250 persons with electrosensitivity, queries related to noise included buzzing, reported by I guess 96%. No, it's not percentages. Okay, well, we'll just go through them. Included buzzing, hissing, strong low frequency sounds, and sound of bells clanging. The term chirping, if there is a Dutch equivalent, was not included among inquiries. Of note, the strong low frequency sounds are potentially consistent with the blaring, grinding noise reported by a diplomat. Next section, blaring, indicative of strong and grinding consistent with low frequency, while the sound of bells clanging is consistent with reports of diplomats who awoke to hear ringing and fumbled for their alarm clocks, only to discover the ringing, clanging stop when they moved away from their beds. In the main smart meter survey report, comments by affected persons were included. Exemplars involving fry noises included these. After 72 Itron AMI smart meters were installed near me in my townhouse complex, I hear a constant buzzing that is driving me crazy. It keeps me awake and makes it hard to think. I am not sure if it is an actual sound or if it is being generated inside my head, because when I put my fingers in my ears, I can still hear it. In addition, at about every 15 or 20 minutes, a more intense whine is added that lasts about 12 to 15 seconds. That hurts and gives me a mild headache, which stops when the whine stops. When I go out into the state and regional parks around me where there are no smart meters for miles, I no longer hear the buzzing and my heart doesn't race. Or in other cases, the noise I have in my head since smart meters is almost unbearable. Sleep is at times impossible because it is so loud. I became electrically sensitive almost immediately upon smart meter installation. My ears buzz, hum, and click constantly. Pressure in the head and ears, agitation and irritability, all since the PLC smart meter was placed on my home. I was able to vacation where there was no smart meter installed, and it felt as if a vice had been loosened from around my head. A post regarding a woman who removed her smart meter after becoming symptomatic repeated several times that the exposure caused her to hear grinding, who removed her smart meter. Okay, confirming this descriptor as among perceived RF microwave hearing-induced noises. Among those with electromagnetic sensitivity who communicated with the UCSD-ES survey group, for instance, one stated that in proximity to electrosmog-producing devices, I hear sounds like beehives and similar buzzing. Another stated the hissing in my ears is unbearable sometimes. One wrote annoying noise was among other symptoms. Okay, so the other claim, the noises were heard primarily at night. Ability to hear RF microwave-induced sounds, it all depends on low ambient noise. Night is generally a time of low ambient noise. That makes sense. A sound that has been recorded in Cuba and reported to be similar to some sounds heard is consistent with chirping of crickets or cicadas. Liederman and Weissenstein, 2017. Fry effect sound should not be able to be recorded. Recorded sounds, if similar to what was heard by some, need not be what was heard, just as fry sounds are similar to other common sounds. So those other common sounds can resemble the fry sound. The recorded sound does not cause symptoms in listeners. The sound does not fit reports by other diplomats of either the character of the sound nor of strict sound localization, such as cicadas. Um, wait, such as reports that when one moved from the bed, sound disappeared. Some diplomats had cited perceived sounds similar to crickets or cicadas. The recorded noises were reportedly very similar to the chirping of crickets or cicadas that are abundant along the northern coast of Cuba. Perhaps what was recorded was or included crickets or cicadas. I didn't think about that. Maybe they just, what was recorded included crickets chirping and cicadas. Since fry effects can sound like crickets chirping, presumably recordings of crickets chirping could resemble those of fry effect sounds. Those deploying causative devices could, of course, capitalize on misguided sonic hypothesis. Those deploying causative devices could, of course, capitalize on misguided sonic hypothesis to lead the U.S. astray by adding a recorded sound resembling fry sounds. However, there seems little need to postulate this. There was an apparent laser-like localization of sounds in some cases. For diplomats, at least some of the incidents were confined to specific rooms or even parts of rooms with laser-like specificity, baffling U.S. officials who say the facts and physics don't add up. One incident was described in media as follows. The blaring, grinding noise jolted the U.S. diplomat from his bed in a Havana hotel. He moved just a few feet and there was silence. He climbed back into bed. Inexplicably, the agonizing sound hit him again, and it was as if he'd walked through some invisible wall cutting straight through his room. Soon came the hearing loss and speech problems. He claims that the facts and the physics don't add up. It was the physics of sonic devices that are inconsistent. The physics of EMR is to the contrary. Compatible lasers are themselves focused EMR. Tautologically, EMR can be focused on laser-like tautologically EMR can be focused in laser-like fashion. Yeah, so the physics of sonic devices are inconsistent, but the physics of electromagnetic radiation are not. Within the room or parts of room where sounds were heard, the sound follows the listener. The diplomat reported that a really odd loud noise that seemed to follow him in the room. Fry sounds are also reported to follow the person, often perceived as slightly behind the head, regardless of body orientation relative to the source of radiation. In other cases, sounds are perceived inside or above the head. Okay, this is table 2, symptoms and signs. All right, guys, I don't think I'm going to go through all the tables. I'm going to, I just wanted to read the main hypothesis, and I thought that first table was good. And then this comparison right here, I'll maybe skip through table 2 and table 3. It's really important. It's really important, and she talked about it in the hypothesis, but I'm getting very tired. I'm having trouble reading right because it's the words are so small. So you guys come and read table 2 and table 3 when I give y'all, the link. But I do want to go through this comparison table 4. Let me just go through. Okay, let's see. I'll just go through like the features of table 2 and table 3. Table 2, signs and symptoms. Diplomat symptoms and signs. Auditory symptoms are distinctly prominent, and then she gives the compatibility with radio frequencies and microwaves. She gives all the hypothesis that what they experience is radio frequencies and microwaves, the similarities, and then symptoms are protean. They're different between diplomats, and then she gives reasoning behind this, compatible with microwave and radio frequency. Symptoms include some that are potentially objectively measurable, speech, vision, balance, and nosebleeds. And she gives why radio frequencies and microwaves could do that. That's really important information. I may come back to this in other videos, I guess. Kind of wanted to go through it all, but my dog, I just don't want her using the bathroom on my floor. So and then on still in table 2, I think. Peculiar sensory symptoms of vibration and pressure are reported, and she says, why microwave and radio frequency would do that. Brain swelling is reported, and she gives definite reasons why microwave and radio frequency, microwave radiation, non-ionizing microwave radiation cause that. Findings are reported in a lot of this stuff she summarized, in the text at the top. Findings are reported to be compatible with traumatic brain injury. She gives the reasons why that's compatible with radio frequency and microwave radiation. White matter abnormalities are reported. I want to see, okay, in diplomats, medical testing has revealed that some embassy workers had apparent abnormalities in their white matter tracts that let different parts of the brain communicate. White matter changes were observed in some with electromagnetic sensitivity in the fMRI study of persons affected by radio frequency microwave EMR. Oxidative stress and mitochondrial dysfunction, to which radio frequency microwave can contribute, are associated with white matter injury. Among potential mechanisms, oxidative stress increases vulnerability of proteins and lipids, DNA, RNA, etc., to autoimmune attack, which can include attacks on myelin. It's weird. It's weird. I've had Crohn's disease. I got Crohn's disease or whatever. Found out I had Crohn's disease. I got a flare up when I was like 10, and I didn't find out I had Crohn's disease till I was like 12. And I kind of paused, and I was sick as a baby. Like when I was a baby, I had to have special medicine and stuff like that. I don't think I was a preemie. I think I had something wrong with me, like I was sick. And I take pause, and I sometimes wonder, but I can't be 100% sure that, maybe because I was sick and I was taken away from my parents, to be given medication or something like that, that one of the doctors was involved in a chipping program. And then so I was in like that, being GPS tracked or whatever, until I was older. And then I got dental stuff done, and I had colonoscopies and stuff all along the way, so they could have been putting more implants in me as I went along. It's weird because the autoimmune disorder, I don't think anybody, I think people in my family have irritable bowel syndrome, but none really had Crohn's disease. That's just just kind of theory there. Following GSM radiation exposure study cited previously, examination of gene expression in rat brain showed alterations in myelin-related products, myelin-related glycoprotein. Okay, so I was hoping it would say how many of reported it. So this is Table 3, Symptoms in Diplomats, comparison to symptoms rankings in survey studies that report symptoms with EMR or in those with ES. So these are those ones that I went through. There's another table, Table 4. Percentages are given. Okay, comparison to symptom rankings. Let's check that out. Okay, so they're ranking. Oh, that was Table 3 that I was showing earlier. So I might not go over Table 4. It's all very good information. I will read this in Table 4. Financial conflict of interest is a major source of apparent disparities in result, because that goes for directed energy weapon attacks, but also iPhones, smart TVs, computers, and things like that. E-meters, smart meters, and stuff like that. Yeah, let me go back up to Table 3. Kind of didn't realize it was. I was ready to sit here for like 2 hours, but I'm thinking about that. I don't want to have to clean up any more dog doo right now. Oh, there's also Table 5, source consideration. Oh wow, I gotta read that. Okay, I'm gonna have to read that. I didn't really go through this that closely. I didn't go through the tables that closely before I read it. I'm gonna have to. The source considerations definitely. I'll go through that part in Table 4. You guys can go through this information. It's just very, very important information. I'll go back through the tables. I'll go back through the tables after I finish this video. The next couple of days, and if there's anything that's just super important, I'll come back to it in another video. But so this is comparative with those other incidents that I talked about earlier. Australia, there were 92 residents in Australia after exposure to smart meter radiation. So Cuban diplomats, did all of them have symptoms? Yes, in the Cuban diplomat situation. In Australia, no. In U.S., no. In France, no. For the smart meter exposure, proximity to cell phone, no. Not all of them. In Japan, electrosensitivity, yes, all of them did. Yes to electrosensitivity in U.S. Yes to the Netherlands. Yes to Sweden. And that was acute electrosensitivity. And then yes in Finland. And then no. So with the smart meter exposure and cell phone uses, not all of them had the symptoms because of that. And let's go through the percentage here. 2 rankings given for severe or moderate and new severe and new. Severe and moderate. So that's like 86. Okay, the number one. Okay, ranking behind them. So the Cuban embassy workers, 86% of them had problems. And then, which ones were those? Number 1 was in the U.S. in 2015. 94% had sleeping problems with EMF sensitivity. Let me just go down. I'll go through the ranks. Well, no, because they're gonna have to go back up again. Come check this out. I'll give y'all the link. I'll go through the percentage of the Cuban embassy workers. But this is a good comparison of smart meters and cell phones and people with electrosensitivity and the effects that they have comparative, to the Cuban embassy workers. So 86% of Cuban embassy workers had sleep problems, 81% had headaches, cognitive, 81%, stress, anxiety, irritability, 67% irritability, 57% nervousness, 52% more emotional, 29% sadness, tinnitus-like sound, 57%, Fatigue, not elicited. Dizziness or balance, 67%. Vision problems, 76%. Nausea, it's not showing anything for that. Epistaxis, not elicited. So come check out that table. Hearing loss, 43%, and speech problems, not elicited. Okay. So I'm just going to go down to this part. You guys can come and read the whole thing, read all the tables. Radiation may depress. Let's start going through. Table 4, mechanism considerations. Oxidative stress mediated by free radicals is involved in radiofrequency microwave injury. Radiation may depress melatonin, more so in some, and in part through depressed melatonin may depress other antioxidants. RF microwave may depress xenobiotic protections. Oxidative stress contributes to auxiliary mechanisms of radiation injury, such as mitochondrial dysfunction. Melatonin considerations, RF microwave electromagnetic radiation versus diplomats. Psychogenic illness has been dismissed. Let's read that. Psychogenic causation has been repeatedly suggested as the basis for diplomat symptoms. This has been correctly dismissed, however, for the Cuban and China diplomats, so that means some kind of mass hysteria. It's been dismissed now. Hold on. Psychogenic causation has similarly been suggested for symptoms from radiofrequency microwave and has been similarly repudiated. The Swiss Telecoms funded study that documented a relation of sleep problems to transmitter field shrink also showed that symptoms were not related to a health-worrying personality, what's that thing called when you think you have diseases? You're hypochondriac, something like that. The concordance of symptom profiles across studies, the emergence of radiofrequency microwave problems in people unaware of the exposure or its potential for problems, the concordance of symptoms and objective signs with known documented mechanisms of radiofrequency microwave injury, the presence of objective markers and ties to genetics that each cohere with known mechanisms of RF microwave injury effectively preclude a psychogenic basis for the problem where such a diagnosis is meaningful. See below in the entry for study inconsistency for provocation studies. The notion that chronic symptoms can arise from psychogenic sources dates to Freud, who also pioneered the flaws associated with its application. The foundation is substantially circular. A mechanism has never been physiologically defined or substantiated, much less documented, to be operating in cases where the label is applied. The label is deployed without the most basic scrutiny of the tacit assumptions. Historically, many conditions that were presumed psychogenic, such as ulcers and seizures, were recognized as organic as evidence emerged. Not all are affected. A minority of embassy personnel are and of RF and microwave exposure. Effect modification refers to differences in effect in different individuals. Chemical exposures may serve as one source of effect modification. She explains why that could not be the case. Is her hypothesis that it was radiofrequency microwave. Are provocation studies contributory? Okay, let's read this one. Financial conflict of interest is a major source of apparent disparities in results. One key source of disparities in study results is financial conflicts of interest. When present, financial conflicts strongly predict that study results will conform to the financial interest of authors or funders. As an analysis examined why some review articles on passive smoking concluded it was harmful, while others concluded it was not. The only identified factor that predicted which conclusion was industry conflict by authors, which was often undisclosed. Richard Smith, the former editor-in-chief of the BMJ, the British Medical Journal, observed that this suggested that far from conflict of interest being unimportant in the objective and pure world of science, where method and the quality of data is everything, it is the main factor determining the result of studies. Financial conflicts have been a concern specifically in relation to radio frequency microwave, both for studies and for regulatory decisions. In an analysis of studies looking at cell phone effects as a function of funding source, studies funded exclusively by industry reported the largest number of outcomes, but were least likely to report a statistically significant result. So they report everything that wasn't affected. And it's kind of which the odds ratio was 0.11, compared with studies funded by public agencies or charities. Analogous to findings for relation of industry funding to failure to find tobacco-related problems, the finding was not materially altered in analysis adjusted for the number of outcomes reported, study quality, and other factors. Okay, so y'all kind of understand that one, but y'all can come read more. Study outcomes may appear different without inconsistency. Details matter to see an effect. Rates of problems, natural history. Table 5, RF microwave source considerations. This I do want to read. What kinds of radio frequency microwave sources affect civilians? In the UCSD survey, smart meters were the dominant inciting trigger. 50% of those and 70% who recognized a triggering episode with cell phones, Wi-Fi introduction or new routers, medical radiation, and other factors also reported. The range of apparent triggers has been vast with radio frequency, microwave, and decades ago, after they moved to a rural area but across from a radar factory, though they moved away, and particularly pulsed RF microwave commonly implicated. Considering those who have communicated with us, a couple from Scotland became affected several decades ago after they moved to a rural area, but across from a radar factory. Though they moved away, both remain electrosensitive decades later. Others became affected when a cell tower was placed next to their home. Dr. Gro Harlem Brundtland reports becoming sensitized following exposure to a malfunctioning microwave oven in an episode that also reportedly blinded her for over a year. An Australian veteran reports that he became affected during his military service working with radio frequency radiation. Radar workers in the military were among the first groups in whom such problems were recognized many decades ago. One who communicated with us became sensitized in association with her job placing radio collars on wildlife. An architect who contacted us was sensitized after several months working closely with Bluetooth enabling lighting devices. Parents reported to us the onset of electrosensitivity in their children with Wi-Fi introduced to the school. Accommodations were denied, forcing parents to remove their children from school and move elsewhere and forcing some teachers from their job. In Sweden and the UK, a controversial radio system called Tetra reportedly caused health problems in some police officers. Severe insomnia in a Swedish officer resolved when the officer's managers noted the connection and placed the officer in a room without the exposure. Some U.S. firefighters were affected after municipalities placed cell towers on roofs of fire stations. Symptoms experienced by the firefighters have included neurological impairment, including severe headache, confusion, inability to focus, lethargy, inability to sleep, and inability to wake up for 911 emergency calls. Firefighters have reported getting lost on 911 calls in the same community they grew up in, and one veteran medic forgot where he was in the midst of basic CPR on a cardiac victim and couldn't recall how to start the procedure over again. Prior to the installation of the tower on his station, this medic had reportedly not made a single mistake in 20 years. The International Association of Firefighters Division of Occupational Health, Safety, and Medicine crafted a position paper, and firefighters were exempted in the recent proposed California bill SB 649 that sought to bypass local control in placing of 5G cell towers. Wow, that's scary. These were not nocebo effects. Many developed symptoms prior to identifying the source of the problem, or in some cases, even being aware that exposure existed at that time. Many had no idea the exposure had potential to produce problems. They were blindsided by onset of new problems. The causes were identified by their spatial and temporal relationship to onset, worsening, and abatement. Reports of problems from commercial sources of RF microwave have emerged from many nations, including Russia, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Turkey, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, France, England, Ireland, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, where Ericsson designer Per Segerbach was seriously affected. Norway, afflicting three-time Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, as above. Finland, reportedly affecting former Nokia Chief Technology Officer Matti Niemela. The U.S., where affected former Silicon Valley techies Peter Sullivan and Jeremy Johnson strive to bring attention to the problem. And Canada, where Frank Clegg, formerly head of Microsoft Canada, now of Canadians for Safe Technology, spearheads the effort toward recognition. Past radio frequency microwave use and diplomats. I think she's going to go over the microwave, the Moscow microwaves right there. Each of these in their studies. Current radio frequency microwave source possibilities and diplomats. The source of proposed EMR RF microwave probably pulsed affecting diplomats is not a principal focus of this paper. For the diplomats in Cuba, causative radio frequency microwave could in principle emanate from monitoring surveillance devices, as has been speculated for microwaving of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, from efforts to jam our listening devices as claimed by Soviets, from electronic weaponry, or conceivably from innocent communication sources of the type that affect some civilians, but presumably are of higher typical intensity or shorter pulse duration, or in the setting of other exposures that amplify oxidative stress, or with some other feature that amplifies the fraction affected. Surveillance-related efforts would seem perhaps the most likely, given the apparent preferential involvement of diplomats in Cuba and China. And I say that it's electronic weaponry because I'm being hit with electronic weaponry right now, and it's remote from cell towers around me, satellite to cell tower to my head. And there may be some ground weapons involved, but I'm not quite sure about that. Room sweep of FBI yielded no devices. The source of the historical microwave exposure on the U.S. Embassy in Moscow was also outside the embassy building. It reportedly originated from the building next door and later from the building across the street. Smart meters or banks of them outside the room were the number one reported instigating smart meters or banks of them outside the room were the number one reported instigating cause of symptoms in the UCSD survey, with other causes including base stations or cell towers outside the home. Pulsed RF microwave producing devices thus need not be in the room. The exposure can be short-term or intermittent. It need not be continuous. For this reason, devices in whatever their location need not remain present after health effects have been produced. And mine are 24-hour day continuous effects because it's actually intentionally directed non-ionizing microwave radiation, directed energy weapon systems and neuroweapons. And she makes some acknowledgement. Look at all the references. She referenced all of these articles and books in how many? It's like 500 and keeps going, just keeps going. She did a lot of research for this. That's my point. My point is she's very, very smart, and she did a lot of research for this. Man, it just keeps going. I think it's 600 and something. 656. 656. Look at that. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because I need to take my dog out. I love you guys. I hope this helped, and I'm going to put the link. I'm going to put the link in the description of the video. But this is like awesome, awesome information. I'm so glad she's doing this. I'm glad she wrote this scientific article, and I'm very glad that she's speaking up, to the New York Times and everything, and they talk to her because she seems like she's just going to tell the truth about what it is. And she may actually, be helping us. She may be maybe doing some research about us. So I don't know about that. I don't know. I hope so. Target individuals. I haven't talked to the one who contacted her. I'm sure more than I know have contacted her, and I'm going to try and talk to her and maybe ask if I can relay what she says. But I'll be trying to do that this week, and hopefully I can get in contact with her. So this is very awesome. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one. I got to get the dog out, and I kind of got to use the bathroom too. I love y'all. Hang tough. Just hang in there. I know this really sucks, and it's like we're living in like a horror movie Twilight Zone all the time. Um, but I really believe in miracles, and I believe that we're doing a lot of hard work that's leading to a lot of awareness, and the awareness is like infecting. It's infecting society, and so that's going to have a cumulative and exponential effect. It's already having a cumulative and exponential effect, and I know that one day, I know that in the future this will be common knowledge. These weapons will be common knowledge. We got to quicken it and pray and stay positive. And when we're not positive, lean on each other. Um, and yeah, just keep going, guys. Hang in there. I love y'all. I hope you're all surviving. I think I might not stop doing videos, but maybe do some videos on things that I'm doing that help me. I know I've made a lot before, but maybe some people don't go back and watch those videos, so I might do another round of helpful defenses. Grounding, so important. Dave Case's CD, so important. Passive shielding over the head, anything you can find. I'll go through some of that. All right, guys, and there's a lot of other stuff. I have a hard time keeping up with everything, like the cleansing baths and all my supplements, and always sleeping in the Faraday bunker, and always listening to Dave Case CD. Sometimes I have to, don't keep up with the cleansing bath so often. But I'm trying to kind of get back in it, just try and keep putting myself back together. I know a lot of you guys out there are doing the same thing. Let's keep doing it and keep hope alive and keep our faith. Because there are good people out in the world. There are good people out in the world who will help us when they and a lot of them have already realized this is going on. And I'm sure that there are some people in places there are good guys. There are actual good guys. There are tons of good guys in our government, the police force, and some of these agencies. And I know that they do not like this. And I believe that they are at this time, kind of working to bring things back. I really do. White hats versus, I believe we have like a little civil cold war going on in our country, and they're not, you can see it in the media. You can see it the way the media treats the president. You can see it in what's going on with the Supreme Court judge. All this scrutiny and everything. Kavanaugh, is he supposed to be a Supreme Court judge? I'm not sure. I haven't been following the story, but I've been hearing about it. So I need to get caught up on the news. Ugh, maybe. All right, guys, I'm at about 2 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and end this one. I may come back to some more important information if I look over some, but I'm gonna put the link in the description. And I love you guys. I hope y'all are making it through this. I hope you're okay. Um, all right, let's hang in there. I'll see you guys on the next one.